Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for your patience. This is Imran from A Continuous Charity, and I'm very excited to bring you an amazing webinar that we have today called Rethinking the Way We Look at Money from the amazing Abdullah Ahmed, CEO of Provision Capital. Provision Capital is a investment fund. Abdullah serves as the CEO of Provision Capital. He has a background in accounting, and from an early age, he has been around real estate investment and has had many family members and mentors collectively who have mentored him over the years. They have time and time again proved their strengths in real estate acquisition. Abdullah hands-on experience started humbly in 2003 when he would do odd jobs for his employer's real estate projects. Now we have our very beloved brother Abdullah on. Abdullah, how you doing?
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah wa shukrulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, man. So we had some technical difficulties, but now we're on, huh?
Yes, yes.
Awesome, awesome. So Abdullah, to get straight into it, could you just, well, first, can you summarize for us what Provision Capital is? Just a quick summary.
Provision Capital is a socially conscious investment fund sponsor. What that basically means is that we're very conscious of how we treat everybody through and through. And part of what we do is do education, whether it's one-on-ones with people or organizations and groups to advise them and help them improve their relationship with money. And then, of course, we have investment options that people partake in, and that's more the business side. And education is usually something that we don't charge for or anything like that.
Yeah, speaking on the education model you guys have, which is very interesting, very, I would say strange in a good way, strange in terms of when you think of investment organizations, you don't think often of organizations that give back not only to their clients, but to people who are not necessarily their clients. And one thing that I'll say about Provision is you guys have a very nice series of educational tools that you share and which helps us rethink the way we look at money, the way we look at investments and costs, which I know we're going to go into. But let's start off talking about the economy. So right now
Mm.
we've had some unfortunate downturns in the economy, and people are struggling. People are worried about their investments, their money. So what do you say to that?
I think it is a very difficult time. And I think that, anytime the economy goes down, that becomes the topic of conversation. And in this situation, I think it's a lot of people who are either, I feel, starting out their careers and now maybe won't have the opportunities that they thought they would because the hiring is frozen. In fact, companies are thinking about laying off. And then, of course, people on the other spectrum, people who are looking forward to retiring, and now all of a sudden, they might not be able to retire because a quarter of their retirement cushion is now wiped out. So these are very serious things. But I think what we need to realize, even from an economic perspective, is that this is temporary. And this is caused by something that is above and beyond money, right? So when we look at the stock market go up and down, we're looking at share prices, and it's all tied back to money, right? So if you lose 50% or $50 in share price, you feel like you've lost $50. But I think this is a great opportunity for us to refocus and look at what's causing this. What's causing this shift? And I think the biggest thing that we can take away is that when the jeopardy, when the health of the society and people came into play, everything froze. People who all they talk about is money, all they want is stock price to go up, all of those people had to shift their priorities. And maybe some of them did it for noble reasons and said, well, many people are gonna get sick. Many people are gonna, lose their lives. So what we need to do is stop doing anything, stop any money-making activity, and turn around and freeze everything at whatever cost. That's really noble. Then the other group was probably more like the consequence, right? They saw people getting sick, and then they saw the costs that would come from that literally we cannot carry on, that there's a capacity issue, that these hospitals will fill up. these companies will have to stop working because everyone is going to be sick. So there's one that's more proactive and the other is not. But at the end of the day, the lesson is that health is above everything. And when we, I think you remember from your session,
Sure.
we always put health above everything, and we give many proofs. But the whole proof is that without health, a person sitting in the hospital who's in pain and they've been given painkillers, the thing that they ask their doctor, how long till this starts working? How
Mm.
long? They don't care about time. They're willing to change that. They've already given up their job. They've already given up their families, and they're in the hospital. And they still ask, how long till this pain goes away? So health is always above all. And then in this situation, of course, we're seeing it in real time, that the entire economy is put on hold because the health of our society, of course, individuals are part of the society, is in jeopardy. And for the first time, that's become ahead, whether we didn't choose it, but that's what it is. And we took it for granted. We never valued it accordingly. But today we see the value that trillions of dollars have been wiped out of balance sheets. And a $2 trillion stimulus came out. And all because we're trading that for health. And I think that's the biggest vote of confidence. When we're willing to trade something for another thing, especially when we're trading a lot of value for the thing we're getting back, or the reason why we're trading that, shows the value. And that's what we did. We traded trillions of dollars for this hope that maybe we can make the impact of this disease less. So I think that that's something that we can really keep in the forefront.
So just to re-summarize, essentially, what we're saying is that while we're worried, or it's in our nature to worry about provisions, to worry about money, but I guess our biggest blessing, our biggest provision, which is health, has such a huge impact on not only ourselves but our society, that when the nation and the world is facing this health scare, it is greatly impacting the rest of the economy, the world, etc.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you've hit it on the head. And, I think I'd love to go back and talk about this issue of taking things for granted.
Sure.
We have so many assets, right? Money is just one asset. And in fact, what we talk about is that it's not even your 10 within the 10 most valuable assets that a person owns. Yet that's the entire conversation. All the coverage is economy. All we talk about, how was work? How was this? How was that? When we have so much as a society, just as far back as 2 months ago, we had a level of health stability, which we don't now.
Mm.
But were we thankful for it then? And today we have certain things. Are we thankful for those things? And same way health is the most important asset, there are different kinds of other assets that come right under it,
Could
whether it's your time.
could you define really quickly for new investors and people who are new to this conversation, what is an asset?
Yeah, asset is something you possess that has value, that you can trade, that you can use, or you can leverage. You can sell it, you can rent it out, or whatever.
Sure.
So the reason why I, in a person's life, put health up above there as a tangible asset now, the reason is because if you did get sick, you would trade your money or whatever you have, to be perfectly honest, to get better. And even within health, there are many kinds of health. There's the physical health, which we all usually talk about as young people. That's invincible. However, there are other types. There's obviously emotional health, mental health. We're seeing that now with the fear and the anxiety that, oh, is my uncle going to get it? Is my dad going to get it? Is my grandfather going to get this thing? That fear, that anxiety, it's real. It's a part of health. There are people who cannot go out to do their jobs on a regular basis because they just have severe anxiety. And these are real things. They have all the education in the world, all the qualifications in the world, and they just cannot go out and perform only because they have this one health issue. And it's not even physical health, it's mental health, and they're equal. Then the other one I say is spiritual health. If a person loses their self-identity, they lose their connection with their creator, what do they have left? That's what, a lot of these midlife crises or crises of figuring out what to do and how to do all of these things where people get stuck. Very important. And so these are more valuable. And when a person, the only time we know that they're the most valuable are times like these, when they're in jeopardy or when we lose them, right? We only know their value when they're gone because now we're forced to go out and seek them. And we know what they truly cost. And we know that some aspects of health and life, they don't come back, no matter how much you're willing to trade out. And therefore, the value is truly determined. And again, I mean, even if you don't want to take this approach, right? I mean, the other example is, even in a normal time, not in this pandemic time, almost a third of our GDP is healthcare related. Security, healthcare, all of these things are there to give the society a sense of, obviously, healthcare, but also a sense of peace that, oh, you're secure. And so, even if you look at it from a perspective of value exchange at a binary level, or you look at it from the factor of our GDP, this is something valuable. And then even if you look at what kind of physicians make more money or who is paid what, you also see that it's related to the value and the need for that or the scarcity of that. So we do kind of vote with our dollars. And taking this idea of loss in perspective, you know, unfortunately, we only as human beings, we tend to realize the value of things when they're gone. And actually, that's a very scarce mindset. And so we preserve some of the wrong things that we don't even know about. And when we want to grow things, Allah's already told us in the Quran, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. That it's a guarantee that if you're grateful, that I'm for sure I'm going to increase you. And so, it's like this contract Allah has given us that just be grateful and I'll increase you. And gratitude starts with acknowledgement. In the business world, we call it inventorying your assets. You ever go to the grocery store and they have the boxes out and they're taking them out and they're scanning it, putting it on the shelf, scanning it. And then when you go out, they scan it out of their inventory. That's inventory. They keep account of each and every item they have, even if it's a $1 little thing or whatever. They know exactly how many they have in that store. They'll tell you, oh, there's one. It must be here somewhere. This is a mega store, right? Whether it's Walmart or Target, they know exactly. But that's something that we don't do. We don't even acknowledge that we have health. If we're physically healthy, we don't even acknowledge that, hey, I'm also mentally healthy. Also, I'm so fortunate enough to be emotionally healthy. We only notice it when we lose it. And I think this is an example to shift that. Now, obviously, our health, collective health, is in danger. But to the extent that we have things, we can be grateful, whether it's within our health or right now we have time, potentially. We're not commuting to work. We have time with our family. Time is the second most valuable asset a person has. So we can now, look at that. We have it. How do we use that time? Can we get ahead? Can we do the things that we promised ourselves that we would do if we had time? And it's a trade-off, but we can use that time. And then, of course, the family is the third one. And a lot of us are quarantined with our families. So putting that together, to the extent that we can, to the extent that we're healthy, we can use that time with our family and now combine those, but first acknowledging them, and that we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase them because we're grateful for them. And then we can now naturally, because we're so conscious of them, they'll start coming together and they'll start growing. We'll see, oh, we have a better relationship with our kids. I actually noticed it myself. Like my son, he's such a mama's boy, right? He's 2.5 years old. Anytime he's ever cried, he used to run to his mom. And literally 2 weeks into this thing, the other day he cried and he ran right by his mom and he came to me. And it's the relationship. I'm home more. I'm able to spend time. So these are the type of things that get created. So I think that, those are the things that we can keep in mind.
So I'm gonna try to. I'm processing this as you're educating us. So traditionally, when we think about investing, right, we talk about stocks, bonds, real estate, businesses, etc., and we talk about nurturing our business. And now, what you're essentially talking about is our real assets are our health,
Hmm.
our time and our family. So give us some concrete ways. What are ways that we can nourish these, I guess, investments? So I guess that would be the first question.
Yeah, I think like any endeavor, right? Investments are very much the same. You must have a goal. Like where do you want to be in X, Y, and Z, right? And so now we can apply that and work backwards, right? And say, okay, well, here's my goal, and here's how I can get there. Here's what I need to input to get that output. So it's with health. Definitely, we know that that's the most valuable asset, and so we need to see what does that look like. Maybe number one, we can be grateful for the health that we have. We have eyes we can see, we have ears we can hear, and all the things that we already have. And then we can say, how can we service this asset? How can we keep this optimum? And whether you look at it the other way, this is a gift from Allah and it's an amana, and we have to return it in the best of state. But at the same time, just the same way, you see the store people check their inventory and then they wash it, they clean it, they keep it in the best state. So you come out and use it. Same way. We got to figure out, okay, let me be more proactive with my health and it'll grow. Secondly, with your time, what's your goal? What do you want to see at the end of the day? And now that's a currency. You got to manage it. You got to budget it. How much time do I have? Where do I want to allot that time? Where can I get the most ROI? What can I delegate? And then duplicate my hours, right? I can delegate and have twice the number of hours that I have. So you can get real creative, right? What's my goal? And then, of course, when you're using your time with your family, what is my goal with my family? What does this look like? Right? My role isn't just to provide, or my role isn't just to put food on the table. What is my role, and what would I like that to be? But the secret is, no matter what it requires time, right? And so having that goal and then putting that effort in line with that goal, I think will show the results that people are looking for.
I remember in one of our sessions when we were discussing a few things on the phone, and I forgot the terminology, but basically how to determine what type of cost we're talking about. So I think it was a capital. Was it capital cost versus I don't
Consumer cost.
consumer
So
cost? Yeah.
these are traditional terms, and I've kind of like used them for my own right. So anybody that's going to go Google these, they're kind of similar, but I'm using them in a very unique context. So I say consumer expense because it's consumed. So I should probably just call it a consumed expense. What that means is that, like, for example, this light, it's on, whatever bill that comes from it, it's consumed. I have nothing to show for it technically. It came and it went, it's consumed. And then the other one is we talk about is a capital expense. A capital expense, according to me, okay, it's very similar to the textbook definition, but I use it in the context of anything that has an asset. Because when you spend money, either way, it's something leaving your bank account or increasing your debt, depending on if you use a credit card or debit card, right? So if that's the case, so what do you have on the other side? If it's a consumed expense, you've spent the money, whether it's credit card or debit card, and you've got nothing, right? You used it, you had an experience, you had something, and it's gone. The other one, you get something in return, and that's that, or you create an asset for yourself, or service an asset, enhance an asset. I use that as a capital expense. These are very business type of terms, investment terms that I use in the personal life. So what's a capital expense for health? Something like, maybe exercising, right? You're even if it's not necessarily a gym membership, maybe it is a monetary spend. You spend whatever, 25, 30, $40 um, on this membership, and that's expense could be a consumed expense, meaning you didn't go and you just spent it and it's gone, or in return, you're increasing your health. And that becomes a capitalized expense because it enhances your health. Number two, if you the time is also a commodity. We just talked about it's an asset. So the same way money is an asset, and you're spending it to get a different kind, either consumed uh, goods. You can also get other assets. Same way you can spend time. So when you go to the gym or you work out, don't go to the gym right now. Don't go to the gym. That's just an arbitrary normal life example. If you work out at home, the time you spend to work out, it services your health, which is your most important asset. So that's like the super high level. I mean, as I usually do this over 2 sessions, and like the second session is where I break out the consumed and capital expenses. But
It's no,
um,
it's great because I remember when we were discussing it, we were talking about, for example, like organic, free range food, right? And if the intention is that I believe this food is better for me, better for my family, and it's going to keep us healthier in the long run, along with exercise and everything else, then this is a capital cost, I guess.
yep,
Yeah,
yep. And then now also, it makes you more mindful, right, of how you're spending your money. Sometimes when there is a catastrophic event like we're going through, and of course health, putting that aside for a second, but when we're seeing our assets lose, other assets, monetary, material assets lose value, we can't see past that, right? But when we become mindful, now we can see, okay, what's the trade-off? And what's the bigger picture? So same way, we're not looking at the how expensive organic is. Now, I don't know the science behind it, right? I'm gonna go with the assumption that it does help your health, and that's how I think. I don't want somebody who's a scientist to come out. There's a lot of theories, right? But the point is that if it is, then when you spend it, you're conscious of that, and you know why you paid the premium, and you know that now that's a commitment. You know, so that's you know that's something that creates this element of mindfulness and how you move about. Once you spend your money, you know what to get back from it. Because the other example I always give is, like, for example, a cup of coffee, right? It's like going to have a cup of coffee, or something, and and something like that, having it alone versus having it with somebody. Or as you're having a cup of coffee, knowing that I'm having this so I can study, so I can apply for a job, so I can do this work. Now that cup of coffee goes from just some random consumed luxury to now, okay, it's going to have a trade-off. I'm going to spend this money, get this cup of coffee, and then with that build this asset, whether it's this resume, whether it's this nonprofit work, or so on and so forth.
I think the famous example that most of the our viewers would understand is LeBron James. So there's
Mm.
that example of him. He has the team trainers, the team doctors, and whatnot. But I think he's per year he spends maybe like $1 million or over $1 million
Mhm.
on his body. So just if you maybe discuss that for like about a minute or two.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, LeBron James, Russell Wilson, all those guys are, Tom Brady, TB12, right? All of these guys are known to spend millions of dollars. They have, physical therapists flying with them, meditation coaches, and different psychologists, sports psychologists that travel with them, and all of that, because they've realized that if I get injured, that my health is the most important thing. If availability is the best ability, right? If I can't show up to the game, I'm not going to get paid, right? Or so, at many levels, right? So for them, it's a simple business decision. Or maybe they're, the best way to look at it, they're so passionate about what they do, they're trying to solve for everything so that they do the best at the thing that they love. But even if you look at it the other way around, which is, yeah, if they get hurt, or if they don't stretch properly, and now they're hurt, they're sidelined, that's, they can't earn, so they look at it that way. That's a very a tangible way to look at the value of health. For them, it's like binary, 1 to 1. If a guy in a contract year, somehow, pinches his back because, he didn't have a proper, stretching technique or whatever that they do right before, he won't get that contract. He'll lose out on a lot of money. So that's an investment in their health, which actually pays off.
So I think now we're about 25 minutes in. Do you have a presentation for us?
Uh, no, I was just
Okay.
free form.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were gonna. I thought
Yeah.
you were gonna share something.
Oh,
I,
the screen share. The screen share I was just going to use as an example. My apologies.
no problem. No problem.
We didn't break that out, but
That's fine.
we can as needed. Sorry, I was going to
No,
just show notes on there
no issues. No
conceptually.
issues. Um. So then, so I know you've summarized many points now, like what is really worth our investment, what is an investment, what is an asset. the differences in some of the costs. So a lot of people right now, I would still say that COVID-19, in terms of health, it has not affected the majority of people, right? So how grateful, you brought up being grateful, you brought up gratitude earlier. So a lot of negativity is going around right now. People are very pessimistic. People are very gloom. So, what are some encouraging words that you have for the listeners in regards to our greatest asset and the time that we have right now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I can share is I think we can actually, now that you mentioned it, we could go with the screen, and I can kind of maybe do a little bit about um, share kind of what I think the lay of the land would be like.
Yeah, I think people need hope, and people. I feel that the way provision and yourself, the way you educate people on what is really an investment and a worthwhile investment and how to kind of count our blessings, I think is very transformational. So I think this is a good time for people to understand that it may seem like our backs are against the wall, but we have so much ample time now. Even though some of us may be losing jobs or out of work, we have time now to learn new skills, right? We have time
Hmm.
to solidify our relationships with our close friends and family members. We have the ability to help out our neighbors. So
Yep.
and if we have our health, again, the greatest blessing, right? There are people who are literally dying, succumbing from COVID-19, and others are not. So there's so many things to keep in mind. So that's why I leave it to you. Should I
Yeah.
sh- should we share
Yeah.
the screen?
Yeah. Absolutely. We can share the screen. I'm gonna probably give a little bit of the bad. So this is like a graph that I've been like sharing with everybody. So I think everybody's talking about New York. I don't know how it is, right? So so this is kind of depending on different methodologies. Like so basically if with a purple here is, if we did a strict 3-month lockdown, this is the curve, the way it would look, right? The purple one. Um, and so the black line is where we are today. Um, and the green line is where, it's going to get kind of really red zone because that's where they're saying that the hospitals will be over capacity in New York. And because it's kind of in the forefront right now, that's what everybody's looking at. And if you notice that, that's about, it'll tell you about April 8th, right? So, we've got a rough, it looks like, 2, 3 weeks ahead of us. So I know we've talked about a lot of optimism, but the reality is that this thing, like a big ocean liner, right? Something that even if we started be turning 3 weeks ago, it's going to take a while for it to kind of taper off, for that curve to turn. It doesn't happen the way we turn left on a stop sign, right away. No, we stayed home for a couple of days and it's gone, or 3 days, 3 weeks, and now this thing is just eradicated. So I mean, that was the worst case scenario, and hopefully we're somewhere close. We're at the purple, but either way, we've got 3 weeks of challenging times. I share that because I think you mentioned something really profound, which is we can be there to help others. When we know that something is coming, we know that this is going to be a trying time, we can get out there, we can utilize our time for the benefit of others. And I think when we put others first, of course, Allah takes care of us, right? But at the same time, it exposes us to what others don't have. I think somebody was talking about, we're all complaining about staying home. And then, they said, what about the homeless? We've got these homes. Literally, we can, a lot of us, look, we're home, but we're talking to each other. We're communicating. We're exchanging ideas. We can read anything and anytime we want. We can watch anything and anytime we want. We can still eat anything and anytime we want. We have our families. We have, immediate families with us. And, you know, and this inconvenience is definitely troubling, but at the same time, we have a lot to be grateful for. And there are those that don't. I mean, there are those that when this is happening in their countries and communities, they're starving. They do not have food. They do not have water. Even if they wash their hands, it's with dirty water. We complain about, oh my God, my hands are like sandpaper because I wash so many times a day, and there are people who are not. And then there are people who are on the front lines also, even in our communities, who are putting their lives on the line. I know in New York, they were saying there were 40,000 medical professionals that came out of retirement to go help out in this crisis. And these who are probably, as they say, older people are more susceptible to this thing, and the damages are more severe to them. And these people came out and are doing it. We can support those people as well, whether it's in our communities. I don't know what that looks like. Of course, we need to stay home first and foremost, but maybe a quick message. I'm sure ACC has a tremendous amount of resources and network to be able to, help and provide that answers to that if somebody had those questions. But I think we've got a lot that we can offer, and I think sometimes being positive is extremely important. And in this particular situation, you know, if it, it's the ayah, right? If you're grateful, oops, that's it. That's your formula. Allah said, be grateful and I will increase you. That's the formula. So grateful for what? Your health, right? And that we break down into two kinds, right? Or three kinds. I think the technical term is probably mental, right? So I think, naturally, if we're grateful for it, Allah will increase us. And I think that, we can use our time to work on our emotional and mental health, our physical health, to the extent that we can at home. I know that's a limitation, but spiritual health. We can reconnect with Allah as Ramadan is coming, and knowing that we're not going to be able to have the same kind of Ramadan. We definitely need to get a jump start this year. We can start reading Quran. We can start doing extra, tasbih, salawat, whatever we need to do to kickstart that and create that new norm. Because it's, as I just showed at the start, right? I mean, it's that we need to really come together and do and come up with some of those programs and ideas that we'll need to get us through the month of Ramadan. And of course, this should teach us that we do have a lot of time, and still we shouldn't create in this new norm habits that potentially waste away the time. We should continue to value that time like it's very scarce, and again, allocate it so that we can increase other assets, whether it's our health or our connection with our family.
So you mentioned ACC earlier, and we have some pretty unique things that we're working on. So currently what we've been doing, or how we've been operating, is by providing completely interest-free loans to students who want to pursue their higher education. I think now more than ever, we're going to see in some way the higher education industry is going to transform, because the students have been forced away from the campuses and everyone's learning remotely and virtually.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the people's healths are changing. People are questioning the foundations of our infrastructure, of our hospital systems. So I think this is a time for people to become innovative, go to school, but at the same time become entrepreneurial and think, if I study medicine, how can I also be more holistically business minded, so I can create new ways to deliver medicine more effectively. And to that extent, we have a mentoring program that we're going to be launching for our students. We have continuing education that we're going to be launching. Obviously, we have these series of webinars that we're doing with people like yourself, who we're really blessed to have. And then also next week, we're going to be having Brother Chris from Launch Good on, and we're going to be announcing.
Wow.
Yeah, we're going to have a really interesting and hopefully helpful project that we're going to be announcing next Tuesday. So I hopefully everyone can join us. And if you want to learn more about ACC, please do visit us at acceducate.org. But I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Oh, inshallah. Yeah, absolutely. I think to your point, right? Education is definitely something that is extremely important, and of course, access to education. And I think that that's where ACC comes in, and it's helped a lot of people, right? In a society where money is always talked about and money is the obstacle and the hurdle, I think that having an organization that lowers that bar to say, okay, well, you don't have to worry about the added interest, or the whether it's the cost of interest or the stress of having interest, whether it's from the spiritual perspective, or from the cultural perspective, just overall over your head, and taking that out. I mean, it's so important, because I think once education is on that list as we go: health, time, family. After that, it's your extended family, your network, and education is right there, because education can enhance your physical health. It can enhance your spiritual health. It can enhance your mental health. And being educated also teaches you to manage your time. So I think that is education is a right that I think people have, not a privilege. Um, it's not a luxury. Excuse me. It's a right people have, and it's not a luxury. And I think that an organization that makes it easier to do for society, I think that's huge. I think there is a shift coming. I think Purdue, I think it is, I think launched a program where they're doing profit share kind of, you know, tuition or something like that. I mean, I don't know the details. I don't even have to. I just remember reading that it launched. I don't know how it did and if it's still around, but it's really cool to see. And I think from this, a lot of that will come. Again, we've got a few weeks of difficulty coming, and I think we know that it's the will of Allah. I think it's something that we can really use use to reconnect with Allah. Use the time to really really seek forgiveness, enhance our connection with Allah. Use our time to spend with our families, and then also, as you mentioned, connect with our networks. So whether it's the mentorship program, or what have you. And I think we can make the most of it, um, even though it is a difficult time. And I think it's all about that, going back to that point. If we utilize all of our time, if we utilize our health, if we utilize our education, to then create other things in return. So if we just say, oh, I can't go to work, therefore my time is not valuable, well, yeah, your time is not valuable. But if you say, I'm at home, how can I spend this so I create something else that maybe I can use when I can go out? Maybe you can write an entire business plan for, as you mentioned, a nonprofit or some kind of initiative that could help somebody, whether it's with healthcare, solve the healthcare problem. Yeah, you can't go out and execute it, but the moment we get out of this thing, you have the entire legwork done. You almost all of these big corporations and development teams are doing Zoom meetings and conference calls just like this. Well, we can do that too. If you ever need to talk to anybody, if you never need to pick anybody, you can call those calls. You can do so much in this time, but it's that perspective that we had talked about. Spend it so that you're creating an asset. Don't spend it so that it's just consumed and it's gone. Even if it's watching something, make sure you know that if you're married, you're watching it with your wife, or what have you. Your goal isn't to consume the time and waste the time. Your goal is to build that relationship, that connection. So throughout that's your goal. Keep it in front. If it's your friend, you're watching it so you can know not your friend, but like whatever you do, there has to be a goal to get something that is an asset that you can use later. You got to keep that ahead, and inshallah, it will not only make the time more valuable, more useful, but it also, to be honest, make the time go by easier. Because if we just sit there and consume the news, and look at the inevitable, I shared it with you. Listen, it is what it is. You don't need to look at the news anymore. Honestly, there it is. It's in front of you. Unless you're a medical professional or you have to go out there and you have to keep up with what's changing and what you need to do differently at your job, You don't need it. You know it. You saw it. Don't check it. Don't check your stock portfolio. Don't check anything. Don't stop it. You already know. Okay, it's like Ramadan. Like Allah's prepared us that in 1 month your life is going to change. You're going to get 4 hours of sleep. You're not going to eat during the day. But at that time, our expectations at school and work are the same. Now, at least those aren't there. But for 1 month, at least our life is going to be totally different. And we can reach back into that experience and say, oh, well, I've done this before. I mean, I jokingly say this, but people were, there's so many things that people are struggling with. Toilet paper and groceries. I mean, they're fighting over all these things. Allah has made those things easy for us. So I think if we take it 1 month at a time, and we know that it's 1 month, and I can make the most of it, and that's a reality. I don't need to look at the news. Oh, when is this going to go? When is this going to happen? After a month, you can go back and look at it. And then if it says it's 1 more month, all right, I'm ready, 1 more month, right? I don't think it's even a week by week thing. I think it's a month. Put your head down, have a goal, have a plan, know what you're going to have. Don't worry about what you're going to lose in this 1 month. Know what you're going to have at the end of the month and what you have now, because that's the formula to increase. And then after a month, we assess. You can open up the news and catch up and say, okay, all right, what's going on?
So if people want to learn more about this methodology, this mindset, and obviously, I mean, through Provision Capital, where can we learn more about Provision Capital and the services you guys provide?
I think we have our website, provisioncapital.com. A lot of this syllabus, as you want to call it, it's come together as a course almost very recently. So we don't have something set up where an infrastructure where you'd go out and say, so, I want to do this, and then there's some link you get and you do it. We're working on that. Stay tuned. And we'll do it, obviously, with you guys and with everybody. I know that in the past, ACC has mentioned to do that program formally as a class so that it's not kind of like informal like this, or I'm jumping into this or jumping into that. The way we have it structured. And we'll maybe work on that and offer that, and then people can utilize it that way.
May the Most High reward you, brother. We really appreciate it.
Um,
This was very beneficial for us, and obviously ACC is here for you guys as well. So please let us know if you ever need help. And to our audience, please visit us at acceducate.org. This Saturday we have Sheikh Yasser Birjaz on at 12 p.m. and he's going to be talking about what is the silver lining in this entire process. What are the benefits that have come out? Not just the negatives, as we talked about some of the mindset that we have to have with Abdullah today. Sheikh Yasser Birjaz is going to talk about what positive things have come out. And then next Tuesday, as I mentioned, we have Chris from LaunchGood. Please do visit us. Stay in touch with us. If you know of a student who is struggling, if you are a student who is struggling, if you're the family member of a student who is struggling, and you're in need of a loan, please visit acceducate.org. Our application process is currently open. And then also visit us next week when we have a new program that we're launching. And we'll share details about that next week. So thank you guys again. May the Most High bless all of you, and see you guys next week.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.